You are listening to A Scary State, and this week is our last spooky special. So, Lauren?
Yes, Kenzie?
Let's get spooky.
Aw, almost spooky season is over.
Yeah, but guess what?
What?
The season right after that is Kenzie season, and that's just the best one of all.
All of November is Kenzie season.
Pretty much.
And then we have Christmas, which is amazing, or all of the winter holidays that people celebrate.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know you're not going to care at all, but we watched this show over the weekend called The Fall of the House of Usher.
You're right. I won't. But I saw a funny tweet that was like, it was like when the House of Usher starts to fall in the fall of the House of Usher, and you're like, what? That's the only thing I know. That's the only thing I know about that show is that funny tweet.
Well, it was so good. And I think you might like it just for the fact that, one, it's not scary, it's creepy. There's a big difference.
That's the reason why they're synonyms.
Big difference. And there's only like 3 jump scares. That's not many. And then it's all based on Edgar Allan Poe. Because he wrote The Fall of the House of Usher. And all of the titles for the episodes are based off of different works of his. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like lead into whatever it's about. Mm-hmm. And it's just so good. And some of the characters' names.
Is it kind of like a similar vibe to American Horror Story? Where
kind
like
of.
Are the episodes aren't connected? Or like the seasons aren't connected?
Correct. But so like the guy who does it, Mike Flanagan, he has different shows. So he has like The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Fall of the House of Usher, Midnight Games, and Midnight Mass. So these are all kind of part of his, like, it's called the Flaniverse. And so it's like all the same actors and stuff, and he's written all of them, but they don't relate at all. So like you can watch them in any order you want.
So kind of like Tim Burton with all the same actors and all the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or American Horror Story with all the same actors.
Horror Story with all the same actors.
But oh my God, it's so good because like we finished Haunting of Bly Manor, and then I saw like the preview for this new show, and I was like, oh, let's give it a watch. Watched 6 episodes that day. The only reason we stopped was because it was 11 p.m. and I needed to wake up early the next day. And then we
can't believe that you stayed up
not on a school night. Or a work night. It was Saturday night.
Okay. And I was like, holy shit, if this show is that good, no. Holy crap, maybe I should check it out.
And then on Sunday, we finished it with the last 2 episodes. And one of my coworkers, I told him about it, and he was watching it. And he finished it last night. And I was like, how late did you stay up? He's like, I really don't want to tell you. It's so good. Like after every episode, Richie and I would look at each other and be like, oh my God. And then we would start the next one. And it just incredible.
This is kind of like how I feel about me and spicy foods. I wish I was different. I wish I could eat them because they always smell amazing.
Oh, they're so
and I feel
good.
like they'd taste so good.
They do.
But at the end of the day, I really don't want my mouth to be on fire. Like no food that I have found is worth that kind of discomfort.
You just need to find the spicy foods that are more spicy because of... God, hold on. Fix this dang microphone.
See, okay. Now you understand why.
Like, what is going on?
I don't know. That's why I was like, there's something wrong with your microphone.
All right. That should be good.
Okay.
I don't know what was going on with that. Anywho. But yeah, spicy food, you have to get your tolerance to it, which is just kind of like
I can't even get there because it's so uncomfortable and so painful.
You need to find the one that just tastes good. Like it has a good taste instead of just burn your mouth.
Well, but then it would be less spicy. Because what ends up happening is those things that are supposed to just taste good but are really spicy, I don't taste anything. There is not a single taste of any kind except for holy fuck. My tongue is going to disintegrate.
That's how I feel about IPAs.
What?
With It connects, I promise. Okay. So,
Okay.
You know how IPAs are all like hoppy? I can never taste the tastes of them. All I can taste are the hops.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean.
Thank you.
Yeah. Only because I feel that way about IPAs too. I can't really taste the difference.
I do like West Coast IPAs though. They taste much different than East Coast. And I don't like the East Coast ones. Those are too because I'm trying to get into them because Joe likes them. And so I'm like, I want to like something that you like. It's hard.
You know what's great is that breweries, they always have seltzers.
Yes.
So
or other beers that I can also try.
I'm always, I walk up, they probably hate people like me. What's the closest thing you have to a Bud Light?
Yes, they do. Because I had a lot of people like that when I worked at World of Beer. They're like, all right, what's your lightest beer? And I said, well, we have a little section labeled light.
beer.
That's a good one to look in.
That's usually which ones I go for, is if it has light or blonde or something in
Yeah,
front of it.
like the light and crispy, light and fruity.
Well, scary movies to me are like spicy food. It's just,
Spicy food and IPS.
I can't enjoy the storyline because I'm so fucking freaked out.
I think you would like it, though, just because it is Edgar Allan Poe. So it's like very literary. I feel like that's very you.
Fair, thank you. I appreciate that. Why can't... Okay, so you know how sometimes, like, okay. My dad's from New Orleans,
Uh-huh.
and my grandma cooks amazing New Orleans cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, that cuisine is on the spicier side
Uh-huh.
for most folk. But us white friends who got their mother's genes from New York and not her father's genes from the South can't handle it.
You have to work your way into it. Like I used to when I was younger. I used to think Chipotle was spicy.
That's true. Okay, I will give you that because I used to think the same thing.
And then as you eat it more, your body gets used to it.
Spicy at all.
No, it's not spicy at all.
I will say when I first started eating it, it was like a little bit to get through.
Yeah.
But
now it's not. So it's like things like I used to not like a lot of spice and now I keep adding more spice to things.
So gradual.
Yeah.
I guess I could see that.
Yeah,
That
you
would
just have
make
to
more
build your
sense.
tolerance up. Like drinking.
Yeah.
To be a better drinker, you have to drink more. So to be a better spice person, you just have to drink more, eat more.
Well, Grandma would always make the spicy version and the non-spicy version for the people in the family that loved the spice and the people in the family that couldn't.
I have a friend who actually got like a really bad brain injury when they were younger. They were surfing on a car and fell and hit their head. Yeah. So really bad brain injury, but it messed up their sense of smell.
Mm-hmm.
So now he can't taste foods, but he can like very faintly taste stuff. So he makes things really, really spicy so that he can taste it.
That would make sense.
And so now like he'll go to like, you know, Indian restaurants,
Mhm.
they have like spicy, well, they have like mild, spicy, and then Indian spice.
Mhm.
So he went to, and he's white. He went to a restaurant and he was like, oh, I like Indian spice. And I'm like, are you sure? And he goes, yes, I'm sure. The waitress comes out again. I just want to double check. Like you said Indian spice, correct? And he goes, yes, I did. They go back. 30 minutes later, the chef comes out. Just to verify, Indian spice, right?
I think it makes sense though that like white people don't handle spice as well. I don't want to say don't like spice, but don't handle spice as well because we also get sunburned. And so I just feel like we suck at being outside and we suck at eating food.
Well, when we came over, we didn't have any spices.
Or sun, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
I never went out in the sun. So, God, like we suck.
Yeah. My friend we were talking to, and she's like, oh yeah, my mom never used spices, so I can't do spicy food. She's like, the biggest spice we use was celery salt.
Oh, my Lord.
I was like, oh no.
My mom doesn't like salt, which is a big problem because I love salt.
Ooh, I like salt.
And so something to her that's like, this is too salty. I'm like, this is amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that's too salty for her.
Like potato chips.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sad.
I know.
French fries?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, she'll eat the fries, but she's not going to want them with the salt on it.
Oh, I love it with the salt on
And
it.
I
I
was
add
like-
salt to it.
I was like, why are you just eating plain potato? Like, you're eating a potato stick with
Ew.
no flavoring.
Disgusting.
Even like the restaurants where it's like, it's not necessarily just salt. There's like some spices to
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but not spicy.
Mhm.
She always says that she's allergic to those so that they don't put it on there.
That's
And
hysterical.
then like, you have the blandest fucking fries.
Yeah, that doesn't sound pleasant.
So anyway, a listener recommended a couple of older scary movies.
Yes.
Which honestly I had thought about of like, that might be better because they're a lot cheesier.
And they're not scary.
And so they're
sometimes the special effects make you laugh.
right. And so I'm like, if I was going to start that,
Again, gradually getting there. Spices, beer, scary things. Gradually dip your toes in.
here's my problem is I'm the type of person that like I start here at the beginning wanting to achieve total amazing palate and no fear.
Yes.
Okay. The in-between time to get to that point,
Yeah. It's not great.
I can't find the motivation to do that part. I just want to be.
You just want to be there.
I just want to be at the end. All the work has been done, and I can just reap the benefits. That's all I want. And the fact that I'm going to have to do some work.
Ugh, how unfair is the world?
It's so unfair. So unfair. Would you like to read for the people 16 creepy facts
I would love to.
that will make you freak the hell out?
There are little bugs that live on your face and eat the dead skin off of it.
They're called Demodex mites.
Demon mites.
Demon mites, pretty much. And they're older than you are. The more they are in your...
No, you totally read that wrong.
I did. Wow. Good Lord.
I love when you mess up something and you just try to keep going to fix it and it just confuses you.
It's like my brain's like, no, bitch, that wasn't right. But my mouth just want to keep going. Like, and it's trying to get to stop. Okay, let's try that again. They're called Demodex mites. And the older that you are, the more they are in your follicles. They spread by skin to skin contact.
Ew.
And they try to forget that when you get a nice old kiss from grandma. Actually, apparently these like bacteria that are like in your gut, all over your skin are like super duper important. And we would literally not survive without them.
Aren't we like something like 90% mite or something like that? Disgusting. In rare instances, dead women can give birth.
It's called coffin birth. That is such a terrible name.
That's awful.
That's a terrible fucking name. And can happen when a pregnant corpse releases gas.
Oh. What? Mackenzie.
I know. I'm just imagining.
Like shooting out.
Something about gas. Just, it makes me giggle. Expels the dead fetus. How are you not supposed to imagine? It's just shooting out. Okay, this sentence is not fair. The pregnant corpse releases gas while decomposing that expels the dead fetus. Oh, that was so funny. Whew.
Well, now we're seeing how well your makeup can hold up against tears.
Not well, because it's not waterproof. So. Okay. I know. I can still feel the drops on my eyelashes. Okay. So, anyway, this coffin birth can happen within 48 to 72 hours of the mom's death.
Which is like sad.
And it's very sad. But the way that they describe it,
I know.
It takes all the human out of it.
That is very true. And the picture that they have accompanying it, like, it doesn't help at all.
No, not at all.
Okay. Over 1,600 people have gone missing in U.S. national parks, never to be seen again.
Unfortunately, these people tend to stay missing because tracking them is insanely difficult, even after the U.S. government put an analysis and reporting system in place after 9/11.
Ew, there is a parasite that destroys the tongue of a fish and then replaces the tongue with its own body.
Essentially, it transforms itself into a living parasite, but fully functioning and otherwise harmless tongue. And I'm not going to read its scientific name because I can't.
Simathoa exigua.
That was pretty good.
Thank you. The last person on Earth to have lived in the 19th century died a few weeks ago, as of
2017.
Yes.
Emma Moreno was born November 29th, 1899, and died April 15th, 2017. She was verified as the oldest Italian person to ever live.
Dang, I bet it's all the wine and cheese.
So the people who live for that long, I forget what the documentary was, but there was a documentary where they were looking at like longevity. Like there's a specific region like in the Mediterranean. I don't know if it's in Italy or Greece or somewhere around there where like these people are just constantly living for fucking ever.
Did you tell me about this recently?
I think so. I think I might have discussed it at some point.
Huh. In 1518, there was a dancing plague where about 400 people began to involuntarily dance for days on end.
Just reminds me of
Hocus Pocus?
Yep.
Yeah.
Physicians
Dance. Dance until you drop.
Physicians assumed that they were shaking off a fever. Some people died of a heart attack, exhaustion, or even strokes.
Jeez. Ew. There's a parasite in cat poop that can literally control rats' minds should they eat it.
It's called Toxoplasma gondii, and it changes a rat's brain function to make them drawn to the smell of cat urine, making it easier for cats to find and catch the rat, literally leading the rat to its death.
If it works with mice, another reason for you to get a cat, but then also less of a reason because I would never.
I forgot to pump the brakes. Pause. There was another critter in my home.
Another mouse or a different kind of critter?
Different kind of critter.
What kind of critter?
A lizard.
What?
Yes. And I had seen like a Snap story or Snapchat or whatever from a friend who also lives in the same complex that there had been a lizard in her bathroom.
Oh my God.
And I was like, it's only a matter of time.
What kind of lizard?
I don't know. I'm not going to show you the picture, although you might have seen it on my Instagram story, because all you're going to do is give me shit for how small it was. And
wait, let me see again. I won't give you shit for how small it was because a lizard shouldn't be in your house.
There's a reason I didn't text you and Juliana. Don't you fucking dare. That's why. That is exactly why.
Oh, it's kind of cute.
No, it's not. In your shower? I don't think so.
No, not in the shower, but like in general, it's kind of cute.
Then I will call you next time I have a lizard.
Don't want it.
Okay, then.
I'm just saying it's kind of cute.
Well, then I'll come put it in your shower and you can tell me that it's still cute.
No, that's when I just called Joe. Ooh, we were watching Fall of House of Usher the other day. And I like see something moving my peripheral and I like turn to the wall and there's a freaking spider on the wall. Oh, I could not move away fast enough. I was so freaked out. Joe killed it.
I think that's been the worst part of this entire experience with these critters is that they're all first seen out of the corner of my eye.
Which is the worst.
And so for like a little bit, I'm like, did I see something?
Right.
Did I not see something? I had just gotten into the shower. I was fully naked.
Ew.
Water was on.
How did you not notice it?
Because I didn't see it. I just turned the water on. I don't know if it was hiding somewhere. Like I did not look into my shower.
Oh,
but as soon as I moved the curtain and got in, I see a little tail. And I'm like, So I step out.
I should not see that in there.
I step out and I put a towel on because I felt immediately just like
it's looking at
exposed.
me.
And just, I'm like, this is how I know I need to move because I no longer feel comfortable walking around in my apartment naked.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like at any moment a critter is just going to come out of fucking nowhere. And once I realized it was there, I said, fuck. I can't squish this because it's too big.
No, you can't squish that.
There is a limit to things that I will even attempt to squish because that alone freaks me out. The fact that I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to see their guts and shit.
So what'd you do?
So I took a pitcher that I had.
Okay.
And I dumped it into the tub to wash it off from the side that was like closest to me.
Okay.
I was trying to drown it, but it's...
Mackenzie!
Sorry that it wasn't humane because if I wasn't going to squish it, I sure as hell wasn't going to pick it up.
Put it in the pitcher.
No.
And then toss it outside.
No. There is no way in the history of any sort of anything that has to do with getting rid of critters from my home that will ever be, oh, I'll just put the cup on you. That cup and me are too close. That is too fucking close. I cannot get that close to a critter. I can't.
So then how'd you get it out of the bathtub?
So I'll tell you. So once I dumped the thing on it and it was like kind of surfing in the tub and then holds on to like the side, it suction cups itself and it will not go down. And so I'm like, well, obviously the only way to kill this thing without having to squish it is I got to kill it with chemicals. And so I didn't want to go too far because that's
disappear.
How you lose shit. So I took out the bleach that I had underneath my sink and I was just spraying the shit out of it. Wasn't doing anything. I said, what the fuck? It's bleach. Then I tried to take hairspray and maybe I was like, well, maybe if I make it like too difficult to stick on anything, that will help. Kind of working, not really. at one point, I just took my mouthwash and kind of dumped a little bit onto the side, which did get it to wash down, but didn't get it to wash all the way down.
Did you think that it was going to go down the drain?
Well, yeah, because I wanted it to die. Therefore, it would let go of the wall and it would go down the drain.
Wouldn't it be too big to go down the drain?
No.
Oh.
Because I have an open drain.
Oh.
And this is also why I refuse to ever get one of those drains that has little holes.
Yeah. Oh.
No. And so I was like, oh, I just kind of washed it down the drain. And so the picture that I had, I kind of filled it up a little bit of the way, but like still not all the way to where the water still wasn't splashing on the lizard. Because I was like, I don't want there any possible way that you could crawl away. So if it rains on you and you feel like you can't move, fine. And so I like would fill it up a little bit and then kind of try to dump it on him, and he'd slide a little bit and slide a little bit. And then finally he slid all the way down. And to make sure he was really dead, I took I have this like, you know, the shit you put down the drain if it's clogged.
Mm-hmm.
I put some of that down in there just to make sure like homeboy is definitely not coming back from that one. And yeah, that's how I got rid of the lizard. And I had texted one group of friends.
Because you knew all your other friends would be like Mackenzie.
No, because I figured out of all my group of friends, I would get the most sympathy from this group. And so they're like, he's so small. And I'm like,
you know, Juliana the vet would have been like...
Right, which is why I didn't text it to you. I was like, no fucking way am I going to send this to like, you know, what's the... Not G.I. Jane. The Irwins. I'm trying to think of Steve Irwin. Jane Goodall and all the other people that like to save animals. I'm like, I'm not going to get any sympathy. They're going to be like, it's so small. You can even get me. It's a fucking lizard in my bathtub. That'd be the name of a children's book.
Oh, write it.
I don't know if it'd do so well in the children category about me murdering.
Well, you wouldn't talk about it being dead. You talk about it going down the drain and starting a new life. Like a slip and slide. It's like a water slide.
I would write it as a book as overcoming your fears.
Okay.
And so the person who has to get the lizard out of the tub.
Maybe don't mention like I killed it with bleach. And
no. I'll put a nice spin on it of like, I don't want to kill this creature. I got to take it out, you know, but I don't like them because they're icky. So what do I do?
Oh, it writes itself.
There you go. But yeah, I knew that there was something that I wanted to tell you. And I was like, I can't remember what it is.
I'm surprised that wasn't the first thing you started with.
I'm moving. I'm going to move.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I think that anything out of the corner of my eye is something.
It probably, at your apartment, it probably
is. And like now I'm like literally creeping and checking into the shower every time.
That's so sad.
And I'm like, you know, it'd be one thing if I was paranoid that a person was in the shower, but I'm literally looking for another lizard.
Right, not even looking up, just looking down.
And since when the fuck are gecko lizard things in Northern Virginia?
They're in Northern Virginia.
I've never seen one.
Oh, I have.
I don't want to see one again.
That's apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, we unknowingly pass the anniversary of our death day.
That shit fucked me up when I first read it.
Yeah, I don't like that very much.
Just like that, it's made me feel some type of way.
Serial killer Dennis Rader would sometimes spend time in his victims' houses, hiding in their closets until they were at their most vulnerable.
Also known as the BTK killer, bind, torture, and kill. He'd kill entire families and steal things from their homes back from the 70s to the 90s. Always check your house for murderers or lizards.
Or lizards. There's a zombie fungus that basically enslaves ants for its own benefit until it kills them.
It's called Desmediospora myrmecophilia.
Nice.
So wrong and it hurts. A furry parasite fungus that causes infected insects to behave strangely.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No.
You're more likely to be killed by a cow than by a shark.
Cows can stomp on you while you're just skipping through a field and kill you. It's habit.
A jellyfish's mouth is also its anus.
I love how on the pictures like shook. Anemone and sea sponges also only have a single hole to eat and excrete through. Gross or efficient?
Gross. Ooh, let's click this image. Ew.
I did not click the image.
Yep. Some tumors can grow teeth, be filled with hair, or develop organs of their own.
And for those of you that are not watching at home, mostly because none of you can, on BuzzFeed, it says, warning, this image is graphic. Click to reveal. I didn't click on it.
Lauren clicked.
Lauren, because it's Lauren, clicked on it and now she's disgusted and will never be able to unsee that image. This is why I don't watch scary movies. This exact interaction is exactly what happens. Look what happened. I get to go the rest of my life without having seen that image, and I'm going to be so happy. You, on the other hand, have to live with your choice of having seen
That's
that.
why they say curiosity killed the cat. I had to know.
And see.
It has a name. I can't remember what the name is, but it has like an official name.
I'm sure there is an official name. It's called Common Sense.
No, I mean of the thing. With the hair and the stuff. Mackenzie. All right. Men can get erections after they die.
It makes sense because women can give birth after they die. So clearly they can still have sex in the afterlife. They can also ejaculate postpartum.
Ew.
OMG.
Your brain can play tricks on you to make you see monsters in the mirror called the Troxler effect.
The Troxler effect is an optical illusion that affects how you perceive things both visually and mentally. Spooky.
And every time you swim in the ocean, you're basically bathing in a graveyard.
Hundreds of thousands of people have been lost or purposely burned at sea.
Buried
at sea.
Gross.
Yeah, that's really gross. So there you go. 16 weird-ass facts.
Interesting, though.
I figured because I feel like this episode is a little random, and so we had just random facts.
Hey, there's a serial killer thrown in there.
Yeah. Well, and technically this list is part, of how I got my story. So
perfect. Spooky, creepy.
Yeah, it all connects back to it.
Fits right into the season.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I forgot to mention, there is a true crime update. So I didn't do a ton of stuff on this just because I didn't have time. But so 20 years ago, 18-year-old Natalie Holloway, nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah,
in 2005, she disappeared in Aruba. I think it was like she was on a cruise ship or something. But Joran Vanderslot, he was the prime suspect the whole time in this case. He finally pled guilty yesterday to extorting her family and confessed to killing her for the first time. So this is the first time in almost 20 years he's confessed to the murder. But I just got an alert that said he likely won't be prosecuted for her murder, despite admitting that he murdered her. And it's something to do with him being in Peru for a different murder that he committed. He's going to be charged for like extortion and wire fraud and all this other stuff. Again, it just came up on my phone, so I didn't have time, obviously, to do it before we started recording. But yeah, I'll look into that and hopefully talk about it next time.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, if like the murder charge has to also do with location. Like, I wonder if the other charges
maybe
they can do if like if he was doing the extorting when the mom was like back in the States, then like you could charge it from like a U.S. crime standpoint.
I don't know. I will look into it and I will get back to everyone on that.
Please do. So, what's new, cockatoo?
All right. So today I wanted to cover some bars that were frequented by serial killers, both while they were alive and after death. So I have 10 for you tonight.
Ooh.
So the first on my list is the Last Resort Bar. This bar is located on Southridge Avenue in Port Orange, Florida.
Oh, actually, I don't know if it's called Last Resort. There was a bar we went to in Denver that had a big old sign that said Last Resort. But now that I think about it, I don't know if it was just decor or if that was the actual name.
Oh, well, this one's in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. Some reviews on TripAdvisor say it's the epitome of a dive bar, which epitome is one of those other words. It looks like epitome.
Yep.
But still, that person and many others gave it rave reviews. It appears to be a prime stop during Biker Week. Their motto is home of cold beer and serial killers.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Lovely.
Do you want to take a guess of who the serial killer is that's associated with this bar? That's what I'll do for each of them. I'll make you guess.
Oh, I was going to make you guess too.
It's a quiz episode.
You say Florida? Do I get like a time frame?
No. Okay, fine. Like 90s. Before that, like 70s to 90s.
70s to 90s?
Yeah, like that's your time frame.
Florida. Gacy?
No.
Oh.
So the serial killer who was associated with this bar was 34-year-old female serial killer Eileen Wuornos.
I wasn't even close.
No, you were not. So a little about Eileen Wuornos. So she had an awful childhood. She grew up in poverty and was sadly sexually abused. Her father committed suicide while he was in prison, and her mother abandoned her. At a young age, she began selling her body. Then at the age of 15, her grandmother had thrown her out of the house, and she hitchhiked out of Michigan, eventually ending up in Florida. And in Florida is where Wuornos became a regular at this little dive bar in Port Orange. She usually kept a low profile, drinking beer, smoking, playing pool, picking out songs on the jukebox. She even added her bra to the collection of ladies' undergarments hanging from the rafters.
Nice.
And when she couldn't afford a hotel for the night, she was known to sleep out back of the bar. She would also bring her girlfriend in as well. This was just her hangout place. But what really put this bar on the map was when, on January 9th, 1991, cops arrested Warnos at the bar.
Oh, shit.
She had an outstanding warrant for weapons possession. An undercover cop made his way into the bar to try to find her, and when he did, the two started up a conversation. At one point, she suggested that they go out together that night and that he should bring all of his money with him. I guess this is all they needed. I'm not really sure, but the agent excused himself to the restroom and called him back up, which is exactly when Warnos was picked up.
Damn.
Yeah. Days later, while being interviewed about this weapons charge, she confessed something wild. She was responsible for killing 7 men, all of whom had picked her up while she was hitchhiking. All of the murders she committed between 1989 and 1990, she claimed were in self-defense after these men who picked her up while she was hitchhiking tried to rape her.
Oh, my.
Which, like...
it's very plausible.
I don't blame her.
Right.
So the long story short, she was arrested and stood trial. She was pretty unlucky here as she was being defended by a man who called himself Dr. Legal. I said, insert eye roll. She was found guilty of the death of 6 of the men she confessed to and given 6 death sentences. She spent a decade on death row at the...
So she just said, I did it, and they're like, yeah, cool, and then put her in jail?
They must have found evidence of these men.
It's like, the fuck?
A confession's not just going to put you in there.
God, I hope not.
I mean, they must have found something because they only convicted her of 6 of them.
Okay.
So she spent a decade on death row at the Broward Correctional Institution, which is apparently considered the creepiest place in South Florida now that it is abandoned.
Oh.
But while in jail in 2001, she sent a petition to the Florida Supreme Court to terminate her appeals, so she didn't want any more. And she said, quote, I killed these men, robbed them as cold as ice, and I'd do it again too. There's no chance in keeping me alive or anything because I'd kill again.
Ooh.
So now it seems like she robbed them, which makes sense if she told the officer, hey, bring all your money with you.
Yeah.
Her last words before her execution on October 9th, 2002 were, quote, yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all. I'll be back. I'll be back. Yep. She died by lethal injection and was the 3rd and last woman to be executed in Florida. Warnos was also the first woman to fit the FBI's profile of a serial killer.
Oh.
Last Resort owner Al Bowling told the Miami New Times that, quote, she kept to herself, she was quiet and never messed with anyone. No one ever suspected that quiet Eileen Warnos was a serial killer.
They never do.
They never do. The bar is still running and has really run with this whole Eileen Warnos' favorite dive bar thing. Of course.
Right.
They have a lot of memorabilia around depicting and acknowledging her. So first off, they have her mugshot framed, hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
There are photos of her all over the wall.
Okay.
They have a collection of her things, such as court documents, transcripts, copies of letters she wrote, and of course, the bra she left in the rafters on her last night as a free woman. There's also a huge mural. I don't know. I wrote moral. There's even a huge
close, so it's okay.
Thank you, mural of her face painted on the bar's brick wall in the back. Around her picture are facts about her, like the aliases she used, her last meal, and her final words. I tried to look at the picture. I could not find where the last meal was.
Yeah.
And her victims are also listed. So there's Richard Mallory, David Spears, Charles Karskadden, Troy Burris, Dick Humphreys, Walter Antonio, and Peter Symes. But she was actually never charged for Symes' death due to his body never being found.
Oh.
But she was spotted abandoning his vehicle on the side of the road.
Okay.
And her palm print was lifted from the door handle.
Huh. There we go. Some evidence.
Yes.
Okay,
so
cool.
while she wasn't charged with his, they have reason to suspect she's responsible.
Sure.
Stuffed animals and other trinkets are usually left under the mural as well. The bar even has its own hot sauce called Crazed Killer Hot Sauce. Maybe a little too far, the warning label says, warning, this hot sauce could drive you insane, or at least off on some murderous rampage. Eileen liked it, and look what it did to her. Yet, no.
But when you put it into context that this bar is in Florida, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, checks out. We're good.
So this bar was even used as a filming location for the movie Monster, starring Charlize Theron as Eileen Warnos. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's very good.
I've seen Monster House.
Okay, don't think they're the same.
Just trying to relate.
Because her nickname was Monster.
Ah.
Charlize Theron also signed a brick during filming, and the bar, of course, kept it.
You mean a literal brick?
like, yeah, like there's a literal brick that she signed and was like,
I
here.
was like, is this like slang for something that I don't know?
Literal brick.
Literal brick.
And while Eileen may have been physically removed from the bar, it is said that her spirit is still haunting the place where she enjoyed her last moments of freedom. So apparently, this is like a really weird fact. So she was cremated,
Mm-hmm.
and a teaspoon of her ashes was scattered near the tree behind the bar. So there's this oak tree that's behind the bar where they have like a Japanese garden. And this tree has bicycles and motorcycles hanging off of the branches. It's like a big, like, staple piece of this bar. So
Mhm.
apparently her ashes were scattered all around there. Yeah. Some of the staff and clientele of the bar say that after her execution, they started experiencing paranormal activity. Okay, this is the real name of a lifetime patron there, okay? Ted E. Bear.
His parents are assholes.
She.
Her parents are assholes.
I don't know if that's like a nickname she's given herself, but when I first read it, I was like, Teddy Bear. Oh. So she said, quote, around
This
October,
reminds me of like how long it took us to figure out
want to get high?
Want to get high.
Our high school play. So she said, quote, around Oktoberfest, there was a Dollar Tree skeleton and the arm would always be missing. It kept falling off and we'd find it in weird places. It was always the left arm. I'd ask, why the left arm? That's why they put the lethal injection into her left arm.
Ooh.
Lethal injection freaking scares me.
I
Because
mean,
it's like, it like kills you. I don't like medical things, and that's so scary.
how would you prefer to go?
I don't know.
I think I'd prefer to get shot.
Ugh.
It's quicker. I feel like lethal injection, you like know it's coming.
Well, shooting, you would know it's coming.
Well, sure, but it's done immediately.
Yeah. At least with the lethal
It takes
injection,
time.
it like paralyzes
Yeah.
you. There's like 3 different injections.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's like the same thing when you put a dog down or something. Like it's the same process. That's why I'm like, just fucking shoot me.
Yeah.
It's
That's
faster.
why in What of Mice and Men, he took him outside and shot him. Lenny and what's his name?
I've never.
A book of
I
Mice
know
and Men.
The book. I'm well aware of the book. Never read it.
Oh, we had to read in school. The same school we both went to.
It's funny that you thought I would read those books.
I didn't. I don't know why I read it. I don't know.
Because you were a good student.
I was.
And smart.
Thanks.
I couldn't fucking read. I certainly couldn't read a book that was boring. I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD yet. Or anxiety. Could you imagine how superior I'd be if I was medicated?
Right.
Oh my God. I would have
run
been a
to school.
star fucking student.
All right, so. Also in 2002, a group of investigators traveled all the way to Florida from Australia to perform a seance at the bar.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
The group captured strange orbs and unexplained objects moving unprovoked. Other groups who have visited and investigated at the bar have come up with similar findings. Bulling the owner said, quote, she comes here because she never left. About experiences, he said that a bell rings every now and then, and barmaids have reported someone being in the bar with them when they're actually alone, so they feel like a presence. He also entered the bar one morning to find the vacuum was out of its like original closet and just on. Ted E. Bear said that Eileen's spirit likes to mess with her while she is airbrushing. She said that sometimes the airbrush will suddenly go off on its own mid-air.
What is
Mid-bear.
What is she airbrushing?
I'm not really sure.
Is
She's
it
just like in the bar airbrushing.
Is it like those really like cheesy freaking hats and t-shirts that we used to be obsessed with getting when we
You know,
went to the
probably
beach?
it makes sense for Florida.
Yeah.
So Bear will say, Eileen, let it go. And then it will let go.
Ah.
She also says that pretty girls at the bar will feel her brush their hair. And the last thing Bear said on the topic was, quote, oh, Eileen lets you know she's here all right. You can feel her presence.
Okay, 2 things. Number 1, I feel a presence the moment I turn my back in the shower. So that means nothing to me.
You wouldn't be a good judge here.
No, because even the other day I was thinking about it. I had my headphones in listening to something. My back I was facing the counter putting stuff together. And I was like, there's someone behind me right now who's going to murder me. So much so that I looked behind me.
Have you ever seen that little, like, it's like a meme or whatever, and it's like thinking about the person who could be a murderer behind me? Well, then why do I do that to myself?
A good question.
Yep.
So that's why whenever someone says I could feel a presence, I'm like, if I thought hard enough, I could too.
Well, there was one time when we were investigating something at JMU where we were walking through like the abandoned part of some building. And this is the only time that I have ever actually felt someone behind me, and I was the last person in the row. It was the scariest feeling.
Oh, I can.
Like,
well
it wasn't like your
imagine.
typical, like, oh, I think there's someone behind me. Like, it was, I had to get out of the room. It was so scary.
As a person who is very spastic when they are touched without warning, I just don't think I would do well.
Well, I wasn't touched.
No, I know, but like I'm thinking
Oh, with
like,
the hair?
Yeah, with like the hair
Yeah.
and like things like that. I'm like, I mean, we all have seen what happens when I'm tickled.
Mm-hmm.
So
violent.
Yeah. I come with a warning sign though.
Just punch in spirit. She was a victim, the owner bullying said. Everyone made up stories about her like Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone because there's nobody around to verify that. But when you read her letters, Eileen was a smart and intelligent woman with incredible penmanship. She also made drawings of mountains and ranch houses.
There's also an episode about her on the Serial Killer podcast.
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of information about her.
Yeah, and I like how they do it because it's from the killer's perspective. Like they go through like the psychology, and so it's more like a biography of them and like what happened throughout their younger childhood.
Yeah.
And kind of like when they started, and they mostly show it from their side, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So you don't really see like the police aspect of things. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had a shitty life.
Yeah, they usually do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of them do. So next we have the City View Tavern. So this is a cozy little Cincinnati, Ohio bar situated on a steep hill.
BTK.
No. Just adjacent.
Hillside Strangler.
No. Okay. It's just adjacent to downtown, and by its name, City View Tavern, it has a great view of the city. Okay. This will help you a little bit.
Okay.
In the 60s, the area where the bar was located was known as Cincinnati's hippie mecca.
Uh-huh.
Okay. My next sentence tells you who it is, so who do you think it is?
Fuck else was in Ohio?
Hippie. Think hippie.
Thank you. Charles Manson?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So Charles
I just
Manson.
associate him with California.
Yeah. Nope. He was in Cincinnati for a little bit.
Okay.
So he was known as Charlie by the locals, and he was a regular at the City View Tavern. We have spoken about Charles Manson before. Manson
Everybody
family
has.
murders, Bianca Tate murders. So I'm not going to go into him anymore.
Right.
So Manson was known as being wild at the bar. There are
I could see that.
Yeah. There are multiple reports of him taking quite a few tequila shots, then threatening to jump off of the bar's deck, with some locals even claiming that he actually did. Since then, the owner decided to stop serving tequila to hopefully prevent Manson from coming in anymore.
That's hilarious.
And it worked.
Great.
That no tequila policy has been upheld to this day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they still don't serve tequila.
That's insane.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
But I mean, at that point too, it makes a great story because someone's going to ask why, and then you get to tell it.
Silas Evans, the owner, said, quote, "Tequila is something that makes people do stupid things, and not serving it, that keeps the story interesting. People always come in and ask if it's true, and we just say yes."
That's why there's that great country classic, "Tequila makes her clothes fall off."
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
for Charles Manson, he jumped off decks.
Yeah,
What?
I think I'm trying to think of how I am on tequila, which I never drink
Oh, I love tequila.
unless it's Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it's one of those things that if I'm drinking it, I'm going into it knowing what kind of night it's going to be. And I feel like that mentality alone.
You're like, I'm drinking tequila. Didn't the other day you drink tequila and you chased it with lime?
Yeah.
White Claw.
We were like, okay, yeah, like we're going to have, girls wine night, whatever. We're taking a tequila shot. Why? It's Thursday.
I know. I saw it on a Thursday. I was like, what are you doing?
It might have even been Wednesday.
I think it was Thursday because I think I was in Seattle.
And I was like, why? And nothing bad, which is what I was nervous about.
Right.
I was afraid that it was going to be something bad, but it wasn't. It was just because we were in good spirits, and so she wanted to take one, and she pulled out the smallest little airplane bottle of tequila, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Are we all taking like a little teeny sip?
Little teeny sip. But it was still like goosebumps, like everything.
I think it's worse to take a little sip because it doesn't go down as quickly. So it just kind of sits on your tongue.
And like the lime is everything.
It is.
Even though it was a lime White Claw, the lime is everything.
You need it.
I have to have it.
You need the
lime.
lime.
I didn't. My sister can take tequila shots and make it look like she's just taking a shot of water.
Oh, yeah. When I was younger.
Inhuman.
One of my friends, we went to the beach and I was like, I bet you I can take a tequila shot without making a face. He goes, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can. I looked him dead in the eye, took the shot, put it down. It was like my strongest moment.
I have never in my entire life ever been able to do that.
Yeah, no. That was my superpower.
Thank
you.
My sister can do it with pretty much any sort of.
I don't know if I can do it now. It was like a college Lauren
I could barely
thing.
do a full one now.
I do baby shots now.
My problem is that, like, look, I got a bad gag reflex. I throw up really easily. And when I take too many shots in a row, So if I take little ones.
Take baby shots. And also, like, I'm such a lightweight. So if I take little baby shots, I can do more shots throughout the night.
Exactly.
Because technically they're little shots, so I can engage more.
If you have me take 3 full shots, I will be blacked out by the time we get to the bar.
Yeah, but if I'm taking, like, I could take, like, 9, like, third shots, you know, and then I'm good. And then that's 9 different cheers I get to do with people.
I'm like the poster child for, like, when they talk about how it hits you later. And, like, I feel like all of a sudden I'm fine. And then the next thing I know, I wake up, I have a killer headache, and I'm in my room. And I'm like, how did I get
How
here?
did this happen?
I was just in my friend's kitchen. Did we go to the bar?
Did I have a good time?
Did I enjoy myself? There have been numerous times I've left before anybody else.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so.
It's one thing I love about you.
Yeah.
We went to a bar that one time. There were too many young people. I looked at you. I said, Joe and I are getting McDonald's. You want to come? Yep.
Yep. I'm leaving.
All right. Next, we have Dante's. It's a university district bar in Seattle, Washington, known as Dante's. Who do you think was here?
Oh, the river guy.
No. Green River Killer?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't he up there?
That's not who I'm talking about, though.
Oh, then I don't know.
Ted Bundy.
Oh, yeah.
He was known to sit in a booth tucked away in the corner. It was a great vantage point that he could use to check out all the girls that would frequent the bar. On February 1st, 1974, Linda Ann Healy, Bundy's first victim, was reportedly last seen here. Her body was found decapitated and dismembered at a Taylor Mountain site in 1975, so a whole year after she went missing.
Did you ever watch the movie made with Zac Efron?
I did.
That was good.
It was good.
I watched that and the tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So good.
I never thought he was attractive, Bundy.
No, but I could understand that kind of
How
appeal.
other people, okay.
Like, he had very much the look that I feel like mainstream media would go for, like polished, good boy.
The wavy hair.
Yeah. You know, like very JFK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a brief recap of Bundy if people don't know him. His crimes.
And I won't have to recap in mine.
So his crimes and murders spanned over 4 years between 1974 and 1978. In that time, it is confirmed that he murdered 20 people, though he confessed to 30. It is suspected, though, that he is responsible for over 36. He was convicted of many counts of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and burglary. He received 2 death sentences and 1 to 15 years in prison for his crimes. So there's no way he's getting out. He was executed.
Well, he's already dead, so.
Yeah. He was executed
Yeah.
by electric chair on January 24th, 1989. His last words were, Jim and Fred, his attorney and his minister, I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends. Gross.
He didn't have any kids, right?
No, I don't think so. He was dating a woman who I think had... Did he have any kids?
I don't think he had a kid. I know he was married at one point.
He was married.
But I don't think he had a biological child.
Rose Bundy.
Just kidding.
He had a wife named Carol Ann Boone.
Yeah,
and when he was incarcerated, and while he was incarcerated, she gave birth to Rosa Johnson, Ted Bundy's daughter.
There you go.
So Rose Bundy, Rosa Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So in 2008, a British television company, 24, came to record at the bar. They have a TV show called Conversation with a Serial Killer. So for part of the show, they have psychics visit places where serial killers have been known to spend time to see if their presence can be felt.
Mm-hmm.
They were hoping that Bobby Marchesio, a psychic, medium, and life coach based in Pasadena, California, would be able to contact Bundy. This particular episode was about him, Ted Bundy. The show wanted to retrace his steps and, quote, try to get inside the heads of the criminal from a psychological point of view. So it kind of sounds interesting.
It does. I just don't know if I would take the route of a psychic for psychological.
Right.
Yeah.
So a local actor was hired to portray Bundy. So he would just sit at the bar, assessing the other patrons and looking at the pretty girls, doing exactly what Bundy used to do while he was at this booth. And for the episode, Zach Peterson, the owner of Dante's, was interviewed and was asked if he had had any paranormal experiences at the tavern, to which Peterson said, no, I wouldn't say that. But when Marchesso the psychic was interviewed, he said that he did feel a lot of energy in the tavern.
Of course he did.
Of course. He had walked around the bar taking photos, and in one of them, he pointed out an orb. So it was 8 inches or 20 centimeters in diameter, faint, whitish, and obviously in the shape of a sphere. A sphere. It appeared to be a photo taken of just a couch. And the psychic made sure to note that it wasn't a reflection of something. It was an actual orb. At one point, he said, quote, my body started feeling flush and I started getting nauseous. But this is about all that was felt or experienced for the crew of the show, when they were in the tavern. After the crew left, Peterson and his employees were talking about the whole thing, and one of the employees mentioned that they had heard and still hear voices at the tavern.
Ooh.
But Peterson disproved this by saying, quote, "It's NPR. We actually hear the radio broadcast. It's because of all the speaker wires we have running through the place that picks it up."
Oh my God.
And he was like, "But we decided not to tell the TV crew that."
That is fucking hilarious.
This Peterson guy is like, no nonsense. He's like, "It's not haunted. Bundy was here. Peace."
Right. But like, hey, free advertisement, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But in 2015, the bar went up in flames and had to permanently close, and it is still closed to this day. Then we have the jury room. Okay, this was in Santa Cruz. Who do you think?
Okay, give me a little bit more about this bar.
70s?
Is it also Manson?
No.
Oh, is it Night Stalker?
No. You are in the right state for Night Stalker, though. Ed Kemper was known to throw back drinks in Santa Cruz, California at the Jury Room Bar, which is conveniently located right across the street from the Santa Cruz courthouse, making it a very popular spot among law enforcement.
Oh!
So back in the 70s...
Bold.
He gets bold. So back in the 70s, prosecutors, police officers, and all other law enforcement personnel would spend time at the jury room. Kemper would often chat up cops while there, always engaging in friendly conversation. So much so that the cops fondly nicknamed him Big Ed. Just a few years prior, in 1964, Kemper had killed his grandparents, so he spent some time at the Atascadero State Hospital. He had wanted to become a state trooper after his release of murdering his grandparents, and he would tell the cops that he had always wanted to join the force. If it weren't for his size, he would have. Kemper was 6'9" and weighed more than 280 pounds, which exceeded the height limit for the force.
There's a height limit?
Apparently at this time, yes, and 6'9" was above that height limit.
Oh my gosh, this is like one of those random, like, intrusive thoughts. But on TikTok, there's this whole thing going around about, like, the women are going to have to get drafted. And it's like all the comments are just fucking hilarious. Like, well, if my mom drops us off, will your mom pick us up? Well, I'm only going to go if you're going. Oh, well, okay. Are you going to wear this? Because I'm planning on wearing this.
What are you going to wear? How are you going to wear your hair?
How are you going to do your hair? And it's just like, and then they're like talking about too with like the initial exam. Be like, we would all be out in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah. Do you have any mental health issues?
Yes.
Well, yeah. How many do you?
All of them.
How many do you want me to list?
Right.
But Ed Kemper, so I don't know why I find him to be one of the most like fascinating serial killers because he was such a smart, articulate, like just very intelligent person. And Mom and I went to the beach a couple years ago, and not our server, but a server looked like Ed Kemper.
Ooh.
Like we looked at him, I was like, "Mom," and she looked, and was like, "That looks like Ed Kemper." And the whole time we were like, "Come over here. We want to ask you your last name."
I'm assuming it wasn't.
We don't know. He never came over. Our server sucked though, so we never were able to ask our server to go bring him over. So everyone at the bar was shocked when they learned that Fred Lee Big Ed was actually the co-ed killer, a serial killer who had brutally murdered 6 college students over the course of only 9 months. Before his arrest, and while the murders were actively going on, he would actually discuss the ongoing case with a number of police officers at the bar.
See, it's kind of interesting how both of our cases, like as I'm listening to yours and knowing how I put together mine, I'm like, oh, it's almost like the chicken or the egg. Would have been better if I had gone first. Because then we could have fit it in. But then I guess we'll go back and be like, well, see, talking about these. Remember when you talked about that?
You'll just get all the information tonight.
Just get all of it.
So he would actually come to the bar to get information that would keep him up to date on new developments.
Sure.
Because they would tell him things that the news didn't know.
Absolutely.
And like that they hadn't put out to the public because he's like their buddy.
Right.
So it was a way for him to track if they were getting closer to getting the killer. 10 years after his arrest, Kemper was still giving interviews. In one of them, he said, quote, "I'd buy them a beer, they'd buy me a beer. These were casual relationships. I was poking around a little bit, trying to find some things out. I knew they wouldn't be privy to hot information, but there were some things that were bothering me. Like, was there any speculation on how they were dying? I was a friendly nuisance. I got in the way and it was deliberate. Again, friendly nuisances are dismissed." He knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, for sure.
The bar is still open today and is still a popular spot for cops to go and hang out. The inside actually looks like a really cool little bar. It has some like pool tables, a lot of lights hanging from the bar.
A shrine to Ed, though.
Today. On one of the walls is a sign that quietly acknowledges the time that Kemper spent there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they don't actively talk about it.
It's a very contrast to the one in Florida.
Right. So they're like, he was here.
Yeah.
But they're not like, come to Ed Kemper. All right. Margarita's Pizza is a Mexican restaurant located in downtown LA, right next to Skid Row.
Yummy.
Freaking love Margarita Pizza.
Yeah.
Who do you think this one is? Skid Row, downtown LA.
Oh, Night Stalker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job. So a waiter told the Los Angeles Times that in 1985, a man named Richard Ramirez always came in alone and looked like he was scared of something. A cook recalled that Ramirez seemed worried about something whenever they made eye contact. This was a common restaurant where Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, would enjoy some Mexican food. He would often come in for lunch and sometimes even late at night. The restaurant was conveniently located right next door to the Cecil Hotel, where Ramirez stayed and where the Elisa Lam incident occurred. Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, is suspected of as many as 20 gruesome slayings and 24 sexual attacks in about a month's period. So just a weird fact. So he really liked AC/DC's 1979 album Highway to Hell. This album has a 6-minute song titled Night Prowler. Part of the lyrics go, "Was that a noise outside your window? What's that shadow on the blind? As you lie there naked, like a body in a tomb, suspended animation as I slip into your room." Very similar to what he did. He would slip into people's houses through the back door. He was at one point known as the screen door killer because he would slip through the screen doors.
Mhm.
Margarita's Place is a 24-hour eatery located at the edge of Skid Row and still serves tacos. Then we have the Ambassador Hotel. Okay. The Ambassador Hotel has been a host to many famous people like JFK, who spoke at the Ambassador to a convention of United Chemical Workers, and the Beatles. This one is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
BTK.
No. BTK was Kansas.
Oh. Hillside Strangler.
No. Keep saying his name, though. You'll get there eventually with Hillside Strangler.
Southside Strangler.
No.
The
Wisconsin.
Milwaukee Strangler.
No. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh. I was supposed to go with the Strangler aspect.
So this is where he would pick up gay men who he would eventually murder. He would meet some men down in the bar lounge of the Ambassador Hotel. It is believed that his earliest Milwaukee murder was actually committed here. Back in the fall of 1987, Dahmer was finally out on probation after molestation charges of a minor. He was at the bar and met 25-year-old Stephen Tuomi. After talking for a bit, the two returned to a room Dahmer was renting at the Ambassador, room 507. This is where Dahmer drugged, raped, and then killed Tuomi. He took the body out of the room in a suitcase and called a cab. The innocent cab driver helped Dahmer with the suitcase, and when a pungent stench hit his nose, the taxi driver asked Dahmer what was in the suitcase. He didn't reply and remained silent, just telling the driver to take him to his grandmother's house. Talk about him?
No, I've seen the documentary.
Here, at his grandmother's house, it sat for a whole week while Dahmer carried out necrophilic acts, then dismembered the body. So Dahmer had a 13-year murder spree in which he confessed to 17 murders of gay men. He would try to turn them into his sex zombies by doing horrible things to them. When he was arrested in 1991, he did admit to the murder of Tuomi, but sadly, his body was never recovered and Dahmer was never charged with that murder. He said that after that murder is when he more or less gave in to his compulsive desires to kill and commit necrophilia. He was ultimately charged with 15 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences, which he never was able to fulfill because someone in prison killed him. Some people who visit the hotel today request to stay in room 507. Supposedly, when Dahmer woke up after killing Tuomi, he discovered that the body was hanging off of the bed in an awkward position. Some visitors report that they have woken up in the hotel room to discover their partners in a very similar awkward position.
Oh, no.
Others who have stayed in this room report feeling a heaviness that they can't explain. Some have woken up in the middle of the night by odd circumstances. Those odd circumstances were never explained.
Of course not.
And the hauntings aren't just located in room 507. Other visitors have reported that before the housekeepers even have a chance to come to the room, their beds will either be made or unmade. Items disappear, only to reappear later and oftentimes in a different location. And some people have even reported seeing weird messages being written across mirrors.
No.
That's actually something you can do if you're in a hotel. I think if you take like the bar of soap and you write something on the mirror, when it fogs over, that part won't fog up. It's so creepy.
Fuck with people.
Oh, yeah. The bar and hotel are still open to this day, and the bar is known for its old fashions. Then we have the L&L Tavern in Chicago, Illinois.
The Holmes guy?
No.
Oh.
You've already said this one before. It was your very first person you guessed.
DTK.
No.
Hillside Strangler.
No.
First person I guess. I don't fucking remember.
Gacy.
Oh. I forgot.
So this tavern located in Chicago, Illinois is known as the creepiest bar in the U.S. They even have a cardboard sign with that written on it in their window.
Ew.
The tavern is rumored to have been a regular hangout of John Wayne Gacy. It is rumored that he once showed up to the bar in his Pogo the Clown getup, complete with costume and makeup. He had a hobby of dressing up as a clown named Pogo. He was arrested, though, when police discovered 29 bodies buried in a crawl space in his house and yard. In the end, after more bodies had been found that related to Gacy, he was charged with 33 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He was executed on May 10th, 1994. And this is really gross. Okay, so he has 33 counts of murder.
Mm-hmm.
Gacy worked as a clown for Bressler's 33 Flavors ice cream. 33.
Mm-hmm.
During an interview, he chuckled at when he made the realization that he had 33 counts and worked at 33 flavors.
Ew.
Uh-huh. Okay, not only Gacy, we have one more person in Illinois.
Did I already say them?
Uh-huh. Shit. Well, actually, you never said them. I did because you couldn't guess them.
Oh, so this is one we've already talked about.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Dahmer. I was going to say Dahmer. I was like, no, it's like Bundy or something.
So Dahmer was also known to sit by the window of the bar, staring out at the young men at the Dunkin' Donuts across the street.
Ew.
He was also allegedly into a young employee who worked there named Frankie. Frankie recognized him, talked about how he was kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't just visit once or twice. He was also a regular, and many of the patrons recognized him when his arrest on TV was shown. And the owners of the bar have been involved in some attacks, so I just thought this was interesting. It's not serial killer-esque, but it's just like more violence. So Paul Gillen, who owned the bar when it was called Columbia Tavern and Liquors in 1961, was once a victim of a robbery at the bar. He was bound, gagged, and had lit matches held to his back. And before that, in 1950, the then owner, Marshall Telaskin, was shot in the eye in a drive-by shooting. Yeah. Then we have Flick's Bar. So this one I don't think you're going to guess.
Okay.
So the man who murdered Gianni Versace.
I know because I talk about him too.
Really?
Yes.
Andrew Cunanan.
I was going to say Cunanan. So
Cunanan.
I have no idea what it is.
Cunanan.
Cunanan. So I actually happen to know who that is.
I didn't think you would guess it, though.
No.
If I had said he often frequented Flick's Gay Bar in San Diego, California, would you have guessed?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool. So he was a regular when he was alive, and many of the other patrons who were also regulars still drink at the bar. Apparently, he provided a lot of information to patrons at the bar, chatting them up because he was a regular, and that's what they do. Luisa Yanez, who reported on his crimes and its aftermath, actually got a lot of her information from these patrons.
Oh, wow.
All of them had great things to say about him, that he was a great guy, they never had any problems, all except the owner. Joe Letzkus claimed that he had been stalked by Cunanan. Again, nothing more on that.
I was stalked.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm like,
that's all you know.
Give me more. All right, then we have the Waterfront Tavern in Bellingham, Washington.
Is this Green River?
Who?
Is this the Green River one? Dennis Rader?
No.
No, Dennis Rader.
But we kind of have the Hillside Strangler in here.
Okay, just...
Okay. So, 2002 DC sniper John Allen Muhammad would spend...
Oh my God. There's no way I would have thought of DC snipers all the way in Washington.
Right. So he would spend time at the Waterfront Tavern, also known as the Waterfront Seafood and Bar in Bellingham, Washington. I've mentioned this one before in our Washington episode.
Uh-huh.
So it's been given the nickname of the serial killer bar. In 2002, a bartender told the New York Times, quote, "I don't know, we just seem to attract them. This town is full of drifters, and even so, Muhammad didn't look right to me. Little did I know." Muhammad had even applied to work at the tavern, but his application was trashed immediately due to where he was staying at the time. So there was like an apartment complex or something nearby, and if people stayed there, applications trashed immediately.
Oh, wow.
And that's not all. Muhammad didn't try to blend in with the others like other serial killers would try to do. The owner said that Muhammad was usually obnoxious and belligerent. Other patrons said that he rallied against the U.S. and spoke up for the World Trade Center attacks. He even cheered for 9/11.
Oh my God, and this is in 2002?
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
So this is at one point when an employee kicked him out and had some very choice words for him outside.
Oh, I'm sure.
Patrons often spoke of wanting to knock his head in, but they didn't want to get in trouble. Muhammad ended up being convicted of killing 10 people in a shooting spree around the DMV area. He was executed on November 10th, 2009. And he isn't the only one who visited this bar. We have Ted Bundy, Kenneth Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler, and James A. Kinney, who were all other patrons. It is said that Kenneth Bianchi had one last drink here before he was arrested for the murder of 2 college roommates. And James A. Kinney murdered over 3 young women in Washington, Michigan, Iowa, and Virginia. So 3 women, I guess maybe 3 states. This bar also has a copy of Catcher in the Rye on the wall, as many murderers are found to own this book. They seem to identify with the main character, Holden Caulfield, and it makes them feel normal knowing that he's the same way. Yeah.
What's Catcher in the Rye about?
Catcher in the Rye. Summary. 2 days in the life of 16-year-old Holden Caulfield after he had been expelled from prep school. He searches for truth and rallies against the phoniness of the adult world. He ends up exhausted and emotionally unstable.
Isn't there a conspiracy theory that goes with it with like
Probably.
something about mind control? I don't know.
Probably.
Okay.
Then the last one we have is John's Incredible Pizza. You want to take a stab at this one?
Where is it?
Buena Park, California.
I don't know where that is.
So in 2010, the Grim Sleeper, otherwise known as Lonnie Franklin Jr., arrived at John's Incredible Pizza in Buena Park, California for a child's birthday party. So think Chuck E. Cheese, pizza, arcade games, little kid place.
Yeah.
Little did he know that an undercover detective was posing as a busboy in order to take Franklin's dirty dishes, including a pizza crust, to be sent off for DNA testing. Just 2 days later, on July 7th, 2010, police announced that the DNA was a match to DNA that had been collected at multiple murder scenes. The DNA connected Franklin to the murders of 10 women, which spanned over a 10-year period. It happened over 10 years, but I'll get to why he was called the Grim Sleeper. He was arrested in July of 2010, and that is when police raided his South LA home.
You were going to say Louisiana.
I was, because I wrote LA. They discovered videos and photos of 180 women. He was only charged on 10 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. He got the nickname the Grim Sleeper after taking a 13-year break between his murders.
Oh.
So he must have done like a certain amount of the 10 now,
Yeah.
13-year break, and then the rest of the 10. Like is how it's a 10-year period.
Yeah.
The restaurant is still around, probably serving children to this day. So there we have haunted bars, scary bars that were frequented by serial killers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
It was so hard to do just like little brief synopses of like the serial killers because it's like you want to go into them.
Yes.
But if we went into each of them, it would be their own like full episode. Again,
Absolutely.
like our individual episodes.
Yes, absolutely. I had the same thing.
Yeah. But yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to think about like you could be at a bar and then there's just and then not knowing that the person next to you has killed someone or that like the person who you hang out with is all of a sudden on the news as a serial killer.
Yep.
Like it's just wild.
You should watch, there's a couple documentaries. I think it's on Hulu. I think they're both on Hulu, but it talks about like one of them is about like the investigation into the Boston bombing, like the Boston Marathon bombing. Which, like, it was interesting to watch that one just having remembered it happened.
Right.
I don't remember all the other things that happened afterwards, like the investigation. So I thought that was interesting. And they talk to the people that were friends with these guys. And there's a really, really, really good documentary on Hulu that talks about this one, like, triple homicide that... This is according to this documentary from this point of view, but the idea is that at the end of it, you look at it and say, well, if police had investigated that crime properly, the oldest brother would have been arrested and might not have done all those things because he has a connection to these seemingly random guys. And even then, like the people who knew the people that were murdered talk about him and talk about what he was like and his their interactions with him.
Right.
And, like mostly quiet, like kept to himself, not really. And apparently one of the people that was killed, he was supposedly like best friends with. Yeah.
That's also what terrifies me too when like serial killers are married and they have like, you know, like BTK, Ted Bundy, all of those people where they murder women, but they're married.
We go into it.
But like it's
crazy.
Wild.
I have so many stories for you in a few moments of people just like that.
Okay. All right. So kind of going off of all of that, Mackenzie, what are you talking about?
Literally going off of all of it. So one of the stats that we didn't read, or one of the facts, was that a person will walk past anywhere from 16 to 36 meters in a lifetime.
Oh my God.
Some say it is 36, but I couldn't find those people. I don't know who's saying it's 36. I don't know who they are.
That would be a whole hell of a lot.
Right. But a lovely Reddit user, Chillaxin Man, commented on a post that a person saw on Facebook that it was 36 people and they wanted to know if it was true. So he did the math, and for someone living in an average-sized city, 10 new people per day times 365 days per year times 71 years of living is about 260,000 separate individuals somebody might walk by. 260,000 people in a lifetime times 6 murders per 100,000 people is 15.6 or about 16 murderers. The comment goes into a lot more detail of how he got those numbers. You are more than welcome to go and look back and check the math. I wasn't going to spell it all out for you.
Right. And math might not be our strongest suit.
Right.
No.
It sounds right. So it's fine.
Mom's already at 2. She's already...
walking past. Well, I mean, yeah.
One person who she used to help ended up killing a gas station clerk in a robbery gone wrong. And then another person who she used to help was with her for like 2 days at her organization, talking to her for 2 days, was there, went home and killed his dad.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Well, like for more than 2 days, but it was like, we were talking about this morning, and she said 2 days before he used to have really long hair, he shaved it all off, killed his dad.
It's the shaving the hair. Really
Yeah.
should make people stop and be like,
Yeah.
So we typically hear about people's stories after they've been in the news for either being murdered or committing murder.
Right.
You don't often hear about the almosts or the could have beens. People who encountered a killer and were none the wiser until they saw the person on the news or a wanted poster.
All of these patrons at the bars.
So today's stories are a PSA, public service announcement. They are a warning that one can never be too careful and to trust your instincts.
Always.
We will cover how to tell if someone is lying, especially about murder.
Ooh.
And character traits to look out for if you ever start to wonder if someone you know might be a serial killer.
All right, I'll test this out on Joe. Let's go.
By the end, you will have the tools needed to detect deception and danger.
Oh, all right.
So, working with Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, director of the Center for Applied Criminology at Brigham City University, Real Crime Magazine highlighted 5 key characteristics of serial killers. So the first one we have is a power junkie. Yardley says, quote, serial killers typically have a real affinity with power, even when they're caught and they know the game is up. Intent on exerting some kind of control over the people around them, they often hold back bits of crucial information in a bid to maintain power over the situation, gain attention, and assert a warped sense of authority. So a description like this might bring a number of killers to mind. Maybe, for example, like John Wayne Gacy. Gacy managed to infiltrate the local Democratic Party, and his involvement in politics led him to serve as the director of Chicago's Polish Constitution Day Parade. God. He would hold this position until his arrest in December of 1978 for the murder of at least 33 young men, which we've gone over.
Yep.
Earlier that same year, former First Lady Rosalind Carter attended the parade and posed for a photo with Gacy.
Oh,
she even signed the picture with a message of best wishes.
No.
According to Wikipedia, the photo was taken 6 years after his first murder and 7 months before his final arrest.
Oh, this is giving me chills.
A lot of these will. So Reddit user RimitimTim22 commented, so there's a post I found where it was like, have you ever had an encounter with a killer?
Oh my gosh.
And it didn't necessarily have to be serial. People were talking about gangbangers and just killers in general. I focused on the serial ones. So a lot of the comments that I read are comments on that post.
Okay.
So the RimitimTim 22 said that their dad and uncle were both picked up on separate occasions by John Wayne Gacy. They grew up in the area at the time that Gacy was active, and both were teenagers in the late 70s. The dad's story goes, quote, one day he was trying...
On one day.
On one
that
day.
particular day.
Yeah. I do say that later on, but I don't say it incorrectly. One day he was trying to get a ride home and resorted to hitchhiking. I feel like that's how they always start.
Always.
Which he did pretty regularly in those days.
Again, always.
Always. He got picked up by a guy in a station wagon and immediately knew the vibes were off. I love these because it talks about all these like serial killers from then, and it's like the vibes were off. Not good vibes. He said there was an assortment of weird knickknacks on the dashboard, which was the first warning sign. Which I immediately pictured, like, I guess with Jeeps, there's a trend of like putting little rubber duckies.
Oh, actually, yes, I've seen that.
It's immediately what I first thought of when it was like first warning sign.
Number 1.
Then the driver started asking strange questions about sex and just generally weird questions. Can't recall them exactly.
No.
The guy asked him his name, and my dad didn't want to give him his name, so he gave his brother's name. About 10 minutes into the ride, my dad knew he needed out, so when they were at a stoplight, he booked it.
Jeez.
Separately, the uncle had the exact same experience, and down to the T also gave the brother's name. So the uncle gave his brother's name instead of his own name. But they didn't tell either one did not tell anyone nor each other for years.
Which always blows my mind because you and you're like, I found a gecko in my bathroom. And I'm like,
I'm like, can't really.
I heard this weird knock the other day. Like, we tell each other everything.
So the user goes on to say, a few years after this happened to the both of them is when news broke that JWG, John Wayne Gacy, and they both knew immediately that it was the driver of the car they had hitchhiked with. Could have very easily been two of his victims right there.
Jeez.
Another example of a power junkie is Ian Brady, known as the Moors murderer, who was convicted of killing 5 children with an accomplice, Myra Hindley, between 1936 and 1965. When they were arrested, they withheld the location of victim Keith Bennett's body from police, which many believed was to assert power and control. Reddit user Deandro Nate also left a comment on the post saying, quote, "My auntie was nearly a victim of the Moors murderers. She was walking home from school one day when a Land Rover pulled up next to her and rolled its window down. There was a lady driving, and she told my auntie to get in and drive her home from school. My auntie said she didn't get in cars with strangers. The woman said that she was a family friend and my grandma had sent her to pick her up. My auntie noticed that there was a motorbike parked just up the road and the rider was watching this go on. She had a good sense to run into a nearby shop and didn't come out until they left. Sure enough, a year or so later, she saw the woman's face all over the news. It was Myra Hindley. It also came out that while Myra was luring victims into the car, Ian Brady would follow behind on his motorbike. My auntie says that she just instinctively felt that there was something very off about the situation and that the woman seemed too keen to get her into the car.
Always have a safe word.
Yes, very stranger danger vibes. Like, I'm like, is maybe all the videos we watched as kids, like, is that where they got it from? Like, I don't know. It's just, I was like, this sounds like a Dare video. Like, strange danger.
Don't get in the car.
Right.
Or those options. What would you do? Get in the car? Not get in the car.
Not get in the car. God, I really thought I was going to get kidnapped. Telling you what, it would have behooved everyone if I had been diagnosed with anxiety way sooner. Because I feel like so many fears that I had could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Like, I really was convinced I was going to get kidnapped. So anytime I got lost, I was done.
Or I also was scared of quicksand. I really thought that was going to be a big issue in my life.
I didn't think I was going to go into a jungle for that to be a problem.
No, but it didn't always sound like it was just a jungle. It was just like there's quicksand everywhere.
That's one of those things that I don't have with the rest of society.
Yeah, no, we were always told about quicksand and lay on your back and it will just suffocate you.
I was afraid I was going to catch on fire and get kidnapped and be struck by lightning in a field with a thunderstorm if I was outside at any kind and there was a dark cloud at all.
My thing is always if I'm showering and there's a thunderstorm, I'm going to get struck.
Yep, that too.
Yep. And then we were outside in a thunderstorm and we were fine. Well, define fine.
We didn't die.
No, we didn't die. But did you die? No.
So another trait that serial killers are definitely known for, or known to be, are skilled manipulators.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Elizabeth Yardley says, quote, "Apparently vulnerability and the need to please have been used effectively time and time again by serial killers as a way of hiding a sinister personality." She continued, "Some of the world's best-known serial killers have a frightening ability to manipulate those around them, pressing the right buttons in order to present themselves in a false light. They are also able to manipulate a situation in order to pass the blame for their actions." So, our friend Andrew. I was going to make you guess, but I guess I just gave that away, but that's okay.
All right, Andrew.
Journalist Jamila King shared a terrifying childhood memory on Twitter in 2018 of meeting a serial killer when she was in 6th grade. It was springtime 1997, and King went to Panhandle Park in San Francisco to play basketball, something she did regularly. On this one occasion, she noticed a young man watching her. Even though he looked young, King knew that he was still an adult, and she was suspicious of him. He approached her from afar and stopped under the basket. King knew it was time to go, so she began to gather her things to leave. That's when the man starts talking to her, saying, "Hey, you're really good." King mumbled a thanks and continued walking to her bike. It was only a few feet away from her, lying on the ground, and the man continues, "You should keep practicing."
No.
King was almost to her bike when the man offered her $1. Now, granted, this is 1997. It's an 11-year-old.
So $1's like a candy bar.
Well, she could buy 2.
Oh, my goodness.
She wanted the $1, but she knew she had to be smart about it. I mean, after all, she could buy 2 candy bars.
Crumble it up and throw it at me.
So King ran up to the man, snatched the bike out of his hand, jumped on the bike, and sped away.
Amazing.
No.
Amazing. That is the exact right way to do it. Well, no, don't ever do that. But like,
Right.
because she did it, great.
Like, she knew that she shouldn't, and she's like, no, but I want that fucking
But it was
dollar.
too enticing.
But like, isn't that so great too? Like, I'm gonna offer you this dollar, hopefully to kidnap you, but I'm gonna snatch it out of your hands, drive away
Before you even realize
Right.
what I just did.
So I still get the fucking dollar, and I don't have to be murdered.
Incredible.
Beautiful. However, it would be a few months later that she learned that she was in way more danger than she realized that night when she saw the man's mugshot on the TV, and it turned out to be Andrew Cunanan.
Him.
He was responsible for killing 5 people, with his final victim being the famous fashion designer and icon, Gianni Versace. Cunanan, it's too many A's and N's, had shot Versace twice in the back of the head as he was opening the front gate of his Miami Beach house.
Is that the movie? No, that's Gucci. The one that Lady Gaga's in? The House of Gucci? I think it's House of Gucci. Okay.
Mhm.
I want to see that.
There might be, I think there's a Versace movie though.
For a second, I was about to say The Fall of the House of Gucci.
Yeah, the Fall of the House of Gucci.
Because I've watched too much of that. My friend, though, at work, he was like, I was talking about it. And when he finally started watching, he was like, I don't know why, but at first when you were talking about it, I thought you were watching an Usher documentary.
Okay, because when I first saw the title, I stopped and looked to see, oh my God, is this an Usher documentary? And then I saw what it was. I said, nope, it's not. We're not going to watch that. And kept going. Because I would watch an Usher documentary.
I think I would too.
I was obsessed.
It would be titled, Yeah.
Sure. That's what it should be titled instead of, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so another example of a skilled manipulator is Dr. Harold Shipman. He would use his position as a medical expert to manipulate his patients into treatments that ultimately killed them.
Ooh.
And he also presented himself as a caring member of society. So our friend Deandro Nate, he says, typical Reddit, not me, but I have 2 separate family members who encountered 2 separate serial killers. So as you remember, his dad and his uncle.
Sir.
Then he says, or they say, the other is my grandmother on my mom's side, British,
Mama.
who was a patient of Harold Shipman in the early 90s. When he was arrested, she was shocked. She said he was always very polite and gentle with her and really seemed to know his stuff. She complained for years that she could never find a doctor as good as he had been.
No.
We live in a simulation.
Oh, geez.
So, obviously, serial killers are also known to be huge egomaniacs and love to brag about their crimes.
Obviously.
Like, for example, what's his name going into the cop bar?
Temper.
Yes. Egotistical serial killers often can't help but brag about the atrocities they've committed, whether it's aimed at their accomplices, the next victim, law enforcement, or just themselves. Anna Williams has one of those, if I had just done this instead, oh, how things would have been different.
How the turn would have tabled.
Oh my God. It would have flipped. The 63-year-old had gone square dancing in the spring of 1979. On her way back, she decided to stop and see her daughter. It would be a decision that saved her life. I'm not entirely sure of the timeline, but sometime later, Anna, in a Wichita, Kansas news station, would receive a poem from infamous serial killer BTK.
You said Wichita. I know him there.
There you go. The poem was titled, Oh, Anna, Why Didn't You Appear?
Oh!
One of the lines he wrote was, "'Twas a perfect plan of deviant pleasure, so bold on that spring night."
Oh my God, this is giving me goosebumps. Oh God.
Mm-hmm. Anna learned that on the same night that she had decided to stop at her daughter's house after square dancing, Dennis Rader, later identified as BTK, had been waiting in the dark for Anna to arrive home. He left when she realized that she wasn't coming when he thought she would be.
Oh.
He is sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences in 2005, and his earliest possible release date is 2180.
I don't think he's going to make it.
No. But
do you talk about his family at all?
Not his family.
Because that's one of the weird ones. He had a wife and a kid.
Mhm.
Like, he lived the perfect suburban lifestyle. The wife, the kid, the house, the job, very trusted, everything.
Yep.
And the wife apparently never knew.
Not a
daughter never knew. She's written books about it too.
I'm sure she has.
Like My
I
Dad,
would
the
too.
Serial Killers.
Like,
yeah.
you know, Criminal Minds also kind of takes a spin from that one.
Oh, I bet.
Forget which season it is, but one of the seasons they're like down a couple of men. So they had this one like cadet because there was murders happening in a gated community. And so they knew that he was that kind of person. He, you know, would come across as a family man, like non-suspecting. And so they brought her in because her dad ended up being this like notorious serial killer and had killed so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought her in to kind of see like the family dynamics and like what were some of the things, you know, now that she's about to join the FBI, she's thinking back of like, my dad never let us get a pet. For the most part, he let us get everything that we wanted, but he never allowed a pet. And so obviously she helps them find the guy. But yeah, so they took a spin off of that one too.
They have a whole thing about him in Mindhunter.
Yes. So in that show, they do a reenactment of him waiting for Anna.
What?
And he's like drinking water, and then he gets apparently like really pissed off that she doesn't show up, and he leaves, and then he writes her this poem, and it's all because she decided to
Oh my God.
stop and see her daughter.
Wild.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps. This is like a really goosebump-inducing episode.
Oh yeah. So Reddit user IT staff, which STAPH,
Mm-hmm.
shared their own close encounter with the infamous killer, saying, quote, BTK installed our ADT system when I was little.
Yep.
He worked for the company for 14 years. I remember he kept coming back to work on it. My brother and I would help hand him tools while he worked.
Oh my God.
My dad always said that the guy gave him the creeps when he was there. And then they have an edit saying, by coming back, I mean to fix the system.
Right.
It would just go off and he would have to come back and try to fix it again. It was apparently a third-party alarm switch that had been installed in a closet or something. I am probably making this part up in my head, but I swear he said he was going to kill the guy that wired it in. Another Reddit user, Moose Dude 16439, also commented on the post, sharing a story that was told to them by one of their law professors and the encounter that they had with the serial killer. So just a little bit of a backstory. At the time of this particular encounter where I live, Toronto, there were a bunch of missing persons posters going up everywhere downtown. So one day my teacher, I'll call him Mr. M, was out with his wife and daughter. He was somewhere downtown in that area. There were a bunch of posters of some missing guy. Mr. M saw an older man in the park they were near walking about with a cart of papers. Immediately, he thought that the man with the cart was putting up the posters, as that's what they would do or did when you needed to put them up.
Right.
As Mr. M is watching this man with the cart, he realizes he's not putting them up, but rather taking them down. So, of course, my teacher goes to confront this man. As Mr. M approaches, he calls out something along the lines of, "Hey, you can't be doing that." And without making eye contact whatsoever, the man with the cart replies in a soft, high-pitched voice, the kind that sounds sort of frightening, like how psychopaths sound in movies. He goes, "Oh no, we won't need these anymore. He's gone. They're not going to find him."
Oh no.
So obviously my teacher is rightly a bit freaked out and just walks back to his family. Anyways, so 4 months goes by and Mr. M has already forgotten about the encounter. But one day, however, the man's face is all over the news. So Mr. M turns up the volume and it turns out that the guy with the cart was in fact a serial killer. And the guy on the poster was one of his victims. And so just in case you're curious, the killer's name was Bruce MacArthur. And he was, and I guess maybe still is, a gay man who used to go around downtown Toronto and lure gay men back to his apartment. There he would sexually assault them, kill them, and to make it even worse, he would occasionally eat them.
So he's like Canada's Dahmer.
Yep. MacArthur was also a gardener at the time, so he'd end up hiding his victims' severed body parts in his client's backyard.
Oh my God. Imagine. You buy a new house, you get the garden all beautiful, and then, you had this weird guy, you move out. New person buys the house, they want to reorganize everything. So they start doing that, and you start to find body parts.
There's at least 5 Criminal Minds episodes where it starts off with the people renovating their fucking house and a body falls out of the wall.
Oh,
We're
God.
Like, we're moving.
No.
Like,
oh, I can't remember what it was, what I was reading, what I was watching, but there was one thing where, like, that happened to a family, like, this guy had buried all of his victims in the backyard. He moves out.
I think I remember reading that.
A new family moves in.
Yes.
And then the cops are at the door and they're like, "Hi, someone admitted that they buried stuff here. Can we dig it up?"
That's like recent. Like, I feel like I recently saw that in the news.
Did we cover that about something?
No, I think it was something, but I definitely, like, one of my little People magazine crime things.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it.
Grouchy Indication 760 commented on that comment saying, "I actually work with one of Bruce MacArthur's family members. I believe it is his second cousin." He kind of brags about it, not in a proud way, but more of a, "doesn't this make me sound interesting" way. I have to keep reminding him that's not something you want to brag about. Nice guy. Not the brightest crayon in the box, though. Another Reddit user, This Bed Is Too Small, commented on the original post and shared their odd encounter with a killer. Here I am reading through people's responses, and then I realized me, kind of. I was working in a coffee shop in East London in the late 2000s, and a man came in and acted strangely with me, bringing me lilies and performing some sort of weird flirting. He asked if I had a cat or cats before presenting the flowers. Apparently, I learned when I was reading the comments that lilies are very dangerous for cats.
Oh, okay.
And this was according to Reddit.
So he doesn't want to kill cats.
And everyone was like, oh my God, that was so thoughtful of him to make sure that you didn't have cats before he gave me these lilies. I was like, okay. So they go on to say I was friendly and gentle with him. He was very young, maybe 21.
Oh.
He went outside our shop and sat at an outdoor table for a few hours. After he left, my colleagues told me that he was TV presenter Jill Dondo's convicted killer who had just come out of prison after having his sentence overturned. They insisted on taking turns walking me home for a few weeks afterwards. His name is Barry George, and he has been acquitted after a 7-year stretch, but unsettling nonetheless. And I included this user's story because I felt like the guy was being egotistical in the sense that he was clearly celebrating the fact that he was no longer in jail.
Right.
And that documentary is on Netflix that is on my list to watch.
Oh.
It's about whole healing.
I will need some to watch because Joe's leaving me.
Oh my God, there's
for the weekend.
So many. I will give you so many.
And I will be so lonely.
There's so many.
So by my lonesome.
Oh my God.
On Saturday, though, I think we're going over to Grandma's house because she really wants to watch Barbie. So we're going to sleep over and have like a wine, and I'm making burgers. So we're going to have a wine burger night and watch Barbie.
Cute. I love that.
Oh, and Mom really wants to do Halloween crafts. So we're going to go to the craft store and get like all this stuff to do.
Wow.
Bubba's coming with us.
Adorable.
And like it was funny because Grandma's like cable box or whatever broke, and so she had to call like Comcast, and they took forever, and they got it all fixed. And they're like, well, for the inconvenience, like, is there anything you want? And she goes, Barbie. So they got it for like, she has it for free now.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. Good going, Grandma.
Yeah. So
Love
her
that.
and Mom are very excited. I'm not going to Massachusetts.
Sure. So lastly, serial killers can come across as completely normal.
Yeah.
Maybe even charming or likable. Dr. Yardley says, quote, many serial killers can look like a pillar of the community at first sight.
Always a pillar of the community, from pillar to killer.
Hey. She added, however, it's a way of gaining trust only to abuse it in the most appalling ways.
Mm-hmm.
This tactic has enabled many to get away with a lot of deviant stuff behind closed doors. Felicity Nightingale started hitchhiking when she was 22, and in April of 1980, she would hitchhike to work in a mid-Wales village and then back home to Weymouth, I'm assuming also in Wales. One ride, Nightingale would describe as, quote, an encounter that I would never forget. She got herself a ride to the service station on the M5 when a man offered to give her a ride home. She found it slightly odd that he offered without her even asking, but he seemed harmless. He told her, I'll give you a ride. Throw your rucksack in the back. It's perfectly safe. Don't worry.
Keep your stuff with you at all times.
Felicity insisted on keeping her bag in the front with her, but the man continued to insist that it was safe in the back. Somewhere along the way, he was like, I just want a cup of tea. And so she was like, cool, I'll get a ride from somebody else. And he's like, no, have a cup of tea with me. So
That's when the like alarm, like the bell should be going off.
There's so many times, but I'm like, you should have been murdered. Like, you should have been murdered. Like, you had ample opportunity, even acting like, ooh, something's not right. But
there's so many times we should have been murdered. Let's follow these random guys to an abandoned house past a really creepy creek. These men who one ended up going to jail because he had assault and battery charges.
Do you think that was true, or do you think he was just trying to fuck with us?
Well, he told me the assault and battery charges years later because he messaged me on Facebook.
Oh.
He was like, oh, I just got out of jail. Oh, what were you in jail for? Assault and battery. Oh, let me stop talking to you now.
I didn't realize that was after.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah. So many times we should have definitely been murdered.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
Because she listens.
When she tried to decline, he said, come for tea. What's the harm in a cup of tea?
A lot.
Felicity decided to sit with, quote, the strangest I met thumbing rides, which I just thought was a really cool way to say hitchhiking.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's why I wanted to include that sentence in there. He asked all about her family and what they thought about her hitchhiking habit. Felicity explained that they didn't love the idea, but allowed her some independence. This seemed to make him very angry, and he yelled at her, that's ridiculous. They obviously don't care about you. No parent who cared about their daughter would let her hitchhike. Given the thing we're talking about, he's not wrong. Even though Felicity thought he was rude, again,
yep,
she didn't think he was dangerous.
Mm-mm.
So after tea, she hitched a ride.
Mm.
She started to grow suspicious when he kept trying to urge her to meet and stay with his wife and family.
No.
Felicity continues to decline the man, which only caused him to grow angrier.
Of course.
He then began to insist that they needed to drive through the town he lived in order to get to the town that she lived in.
Well, obviously, that's the only logical route.
In the article, it goes, this was grossly incorrect or something like that.
Well, yeah.
Right. When she told him that it was incorrect, he abruptly told her that he needed to see a friend nearby and that he would drop her off and pick her up on the way back.
Okay, can you stop changing your frickin' story?
Right. Felicity later recalled, quote, he was so cross, I actually thought he was going to lean across and hit me. So when he stopped, I did what he said and got out of the van. Fortunately, she made it home safely that night. But it wouldn't be until 14 years later that she would find out that Fred West was the man who had picked her up that day. Fred and his wife, Rosemary, had tortured, raped, and killed 10 women between 1967 and 1987.
Damn.
Felicity's husband jokes with her that she might have been the only woman to be rejected by Fred West.
I'd be like, damn, thanks to make me feel good.
Right. I felt like this case was very Alice in Wonderland-y with like the white rabbit and having tea and, you know, still wanting to go with him, even though like
An odd travel.
Mm-hmm. It's very Alice in Wonderly.
Alice in Wonderly.
Yeah, that. So Pam Prine had her own close call with a notorious serial killer. See if you can get this one.
Okay.
She had just started the semester at Brigham Young University in Utah. She was headed to class when she noticed a handsome man trying to avoid the rain by standing under the Wilkinson Center patio covering. Pam told The Spectrum, quote, as I got closer, he said, hi, do you go to school here? I told him yes. I've seen such good people here, he said. I'm from out of town and I need to go to downtown Provo to speak, he said, eyeing my umbrella. Could you walk me to my car so I didn't get my suit stained in this rain? Pam said that she would help the charming stranger and she had a few extra minutes before class and she had an umbrella, so why not? She tightened the belt around her raincoat and the two set out towards the parking lot. Pam later shared, quote, we walked through the 3 different sections of the parking lot, each taking us further away from the Wilkinson Center and from my class. So I asked, where's your car? He said it was a little bit further. We walked a few more steps and then all of a sudden I felt him grab the belt on the back of my raincoat. Pam jerked away and ran back a few steps. She turned around to reconsider and looked at him, and he asked why she had run away and that he wasn't going to hurt her. He said, come back, get your umbrella. Something in Pam told her that this wasn't a good idea, so she told him to keep it and ran off. Later, Pam felt very embarrassed for how she had acted and decided not to report this strange encounter to campus security. She later reflected, quote, I remember that he was very nice and extremely handsome, she said. I kept thinking and dwelling on the fact that I probably had overreacted and left this out-of-towner with a poor image of the church and its university. Years later, now living in Arizona, Pam was watching a TV program about a serial killer that she had heard about in the news, but she didn't know what he looked like. Pam told reporters, quote, I thought it was strange that it said that he was in Provo and had killed a girl there. I thought of my experience with a handsome man in the nice suit. As I watched the rest of the movie, they showed a picture of
Ted Bundy?
Yes! I looked at the face and saw those eyes, and I knew it was him who I ran away at BYU. Pam was deeply distraught when she made the realization that she could have easily been one of his victims that day in the rain. She looked very similar to his victim type, tall, thin, long hair, usually parted in the middle. Pam had a hard time sleeping that night, and when her radio alarm went off in the morning, the first thing Pam heard was that Ted Bundy had just been executed. It was January 24th, 1989.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go into all the things he did because you already talked about it.
So I read in an article once about this one girl. So she is at the beach with like her husband, her kids, grandparents, like the whole family trip to the beach. She's sitting on the towel. Everyone else is in the water. And this really handsome man comes up to her. And he's like, hey, like, I need a little bit of help bringing something to my car. Like, would you mind helping me real quick? And she said he was very nice looking and she was going to help him. But she was like, I can't. Like, my family's all here. Like, I really can't leave them. They're not going to know where I am. Like, I have to stay here.
Right.
So he ends up leaving Ted Bundy. Because it was at that beach. And I think it was it Washington, Florida? One of the beaches that he would go to a lot.
Yeah,
that was where it happened. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, he obviously, that we've said a million times, he was known as handsome, well-dressed, and often charming, which made him very trustworthy to women. He would usually trick his victims into helping him by wearing a cast, using crutches, or being umbrella-less when it's raining.
God. Yeah, right when you said he didn't have an umbrella and he needed help walking to the car, I was like, is this who I think it is?
It is. So some other fun things that I've encountered with this is that celebrities have had quite a few encounters with serial killers.
Which is surprising.
Right. So Bundy is a strong exemplar of many of the characteristics we've already covered. And there are plenty of killers who were loving husbands and fathers with families of their own, none the wiser to their extracurriculars. Woody Harrelson, who got a start on the popular 80s sitcom Cheers and has been in a number of Oscar-winning movies. You may know him as Hey Mitch from The Hunger Games.
Yep.
And some of his earlier works like White Men Can't Jump, No Country for Old Men, or Zombieland. All very different. He also has won numerous Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series for his role as Marty Hart in the HBO crime anthology series True Detective. Anyway, his dad was a hitman for the mob.
Oh, casual.
In the early 60s, Charles Harrelson was involved in dozens of murders. He was known for using a sniper rifle instead of a typical handgun. Woody was 7 when his dad went away for murder. At his last trial, the prosecutor said, quote, Charles Harrelson damaged everyone he came in contact with. At some point in his life, he even claimed responsibility for the assassination of JFK.
Charles did?
Uh-huh. And the website goes into a great explanation as to why it makes sense with the conspiracy theorists. You can go look for yourself. I don't know. The point of this story that I'm telling you now is that later in his life, Woody started a relationship with his father and was visiting him in prison. He told People magazine, quote, this might sound odd to say, but about a convicted felon, but my father is one of the most articulate, well-read, charming people I've ever known. Still, I'm just now gauging whether he merits my loyalty or friendship. I look at him as someone who could be a friend more than someone who could be a father.
But I mean, that's not surprising how he described him. That's a very common thing.
Can happen to anyone, not just celebrities. These users from Reddit had their own experiences with people that they presumed to be perfectly normal who turned out to be a serial killer. Now, they don't say any of these people's by names.
Any of the killers?
Yeah. It just says he or it or whatever.
Okay.
So Different Weekend says, I never met this person face to face, although perhaps I did and didn't know it, for 2 years and lived next door to Canada's #1 serial killer. We shared laundry facilities, a gym, pool. It was that type of building. He was in the middle of his killing days at the apartment while I was living there. What are the odds?
Oh, gross.
LA Corncob Tryon said he was in our, I don't know who he is, but he was in our small town for 20 years working for the railroad, grew vegetables which he sold at the local farmer's market, frequented a local diner and liquor store, known throughout the community as an odd guy, but no one suspected what he had done. His stepkids used to throw huge parties in high school. Just months ago, DNA linked him to 3 murders, assaults, and 2 attempted murders and assaults in the 80s and early 90s. Died of cancer 10 years ago. Just a surreal, crazy feeling for everyone to find out he did such horrible things, was nice to neighbors and everyone in the community.
I bet you if we did our research, we could figure out who all these people are.
I'm sure we could. And I almost did.
I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't.
I didn't have time.
That's okay. Makes sense.
I was already worried that I was going to have to cut some of this stuff out. So, in 1971, a study conducted by Professor Albert Maharabian, sorry, I know I butchered his name, Albert, a social psychologist at the University of Los Angeles, it was found that body language plays a significant role in conveying feelings, accounting for 55% of the message. An additional 38% is attributed to factors like tone, pitch, pace of speech, where only 7% is associated with actual word use, which is why things get so misconstrued over text. Building on this research, behavioral scientist Cliff Lansley explained that when assessing whether someone is dishonest about being a murderer, factors such as maintaining eye contact, sweating, or evading questions are not the key indicators. Instead, a crucial focus should be on observing changes in their behavior. So this is what he says to look out for if you're questioning someone like a suspect, which, when are we going to do that? But
we don't know. So these are good to know.
These are good to know because this is a good way to tell someone's lying. When starting to interrogate a killer, the interviewer might open up with some friendly banter and hold a harmless conversation that will put the suspect at ease.
We're good at banter.
They'll bring up innocent topics such as their families and friends or their skills, education, hopes for the future. It is during this period that it is important to note how often they blink, the normal color of their skin, their speech rate, and how they maintain eye contact.
I feel like I blink a lot.
I don't know. I've never looked that closely. But I know I don't maintain eye contact a lot when I'm talking.
If someone's talking to me, I can maintain eye contact. But if I'm talking to you, I'm looking around. Not because I don't. It's just I feel like I'm like, do you want to hear the story that I'm telling you? I'm going to stare at you. Yes, and I don't want to make someone uncomfortable by staring at them.
Absolutely. And I think that's why he's saying that, like,
the baseline.
Yeah, you're establishing the baseline. once the baseline is established, the interrogator is able to assess whether it changes once they begin to ask the heavy questions. In doing this, they are able to establish when they are experiencing discomfort or stress and when they could be lying.
I assume that's how like a polygraph would be.
It sounds like, yeah, but human instead
Well,
of...
yeah. But like with the baseline and then like seeing all the questions.
Yep. Such changes in behavior could include a faster speech rate or even blinking more. So you'd be screwed, I guess.
I would be.
Landsley also points out that some criminals might use intense eye contact to gauge whether the interviewer is buying their story, while others may choose to avoid it altogether. But he added that it is a common misconception to believe that someone looking away from you automatically means that they're lying, as this is not always the case. He says, quote, studies show that maintaining eye contact while telling an account is actually a stronger indicator of deception than looking away. And since it suggests that someone's checking to see if they are being believed, makes sense.
Interesting.
So there are a couple other notable celebrity encounters that I'm just going to briefly go over because it then really would be too long. But Sean Penn, he had a bad temper, so he'd get locked up from time to time. And on one of his stints, he was actually in the same prison as the Night Stalker. And it was known that Sean Penn was there, and the Night Stalker had sent him, I don't know if it was a piece of paper, photo, whatever it was, being like, hey, can you sign this? Like, huge fan. Yeah.
Did he sign it?
I don't think so. I don't know. God. It didn't say. So Travis Holman, which you don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. It's a husband of one of the Real Housewives.
Oh, yeah. Could be why I don't know who that is.
I wasn't going to include his story, but it's really fucking crazy.
Okay.
So the I-5 killer.
Yeah.
He babysat him in high school.
He babysat the killer?
No, the killer babysat him.
Oh.
So I guess the killer was on the football team, and the coach would make his players like help out. I don't know if like his dad was also a coach or if it was just people in the community, like whatever it is. But he had the football players babysit for people that needed it and babysat him. Said he was a fun guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the shit that freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
Babysitter. So the Hollywood Ripper, I forget how many people he killed, but it was in the early aughts, as they say. And Ashton Kutcher was going to go on a date with this girl. And he had happened to be late to pick her up. She didn't answer the door. He looked in and thought like red wine had spilled on the carpet.
No.
But she wasn't answering, so he left. Turns out that she had been murdered by the Hollywood Ripper. And in fact, because a lot of their evidence was very circumstantial, Kutcher testified in the trial because it gave them a timeline.
Oh my God. Okay.
And they actually thought he was a suspect.
Kutcher?
Yeah. Because he was the last one to technically have contact with this girl.
If he had picked her up on time, would she have been alive?
Well, the thing is, though, is that if he had picked her up on time, he might have also been killed.
Oh my God.
Because it seemed like the guy was already there. I don't know. I forget how late he was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was like an hour, if it was like 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he might have called saying he was going to be late. I don't know if she answered. But when he got there, he assumed that she wasn't answering because she was mad that he was late.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he left.
Wow.
So that's crazy. So I think Reddit user Grim Raves Toys sums up all of these encounters and things to look out for very nicely. As a former correctional officer, I've known all types of killers, from gang members to assassins, from heat of passion murderers to those who have killed multiple people. Whether or not the latter would be considered serial or spree killers would depend on the context of the crime, but I've met and known all types for many years. Each one was different. Individual personalities ran the entire gamut. Some were remorseful, some not. Some were very scary and intimidating, and others I wouldn't mind having a beer with. What was interesting in a correctional environment, you get to know them at a pretty intimate level. Those who are truly psychopathic show this early on, and as a correctional professional, you get used to being able to see who is really a bad guy and who maybe made a mistake or did something in the heat of passion. So despite knowing all of these things, you really never know.
You never know.
You never know. And that is just literally a drop in the bucket.
Oh my God.
Because there were thousands of comments.
Oh, I bet.
On that one Reddit page. Like, I had to stop myself. I was like, you have enough. Like, you also have all these other like, you have enough. There was one, what's his name?
You have enough, but let me tell you more.
Let me tell you more. The ones that I didn't include that I thought were really cool. What's his name? The funny guy. Chris Farley.
Oh.
Apparently growing up, he lived within viewing distance of some sort of mental institution. And it was known for having housed Ed Gein.
Ew.
And so they would hear the sirens go off, and that would mean that somebody had escaped.
No.
And he was pissing his pants, terrified. He'd go and like sleep in his brother's room. He's like, I'm fucking sleeping in here.
That's terrifying.
Oh, for sure. And his brothers were assholes and, of course, encouraged it.
Oh.
So,
wow.
there was one where the ones you were talking about, the Hillside Strangler,
Mm-hmm.
the guy's name we can't pronounce, something like
Bianchi.
that. I guess he does it with his cousin.
Yeah, he had an accomplice.
And a girl that they had planned to kill, do whatever it is that they do, they stopped when they realized that, I don't know if she was the cousin, or no, it wasn't cousin. She was the daughter of a famous actor, and they didn't want the attention.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
They didn't want the attention brought to it that, you know.
Right.
And then Blondie, the lead singer Blondie,
Yeah.
she supposedly got into Ted Bundy's car.
Jeez. When it had the passenger seat?
Yes, but she did say it smelled funky.
Ew.
Yeah. So, but some aren't sure though, because when she talks about when she was taken, she was in New York and he wasn't in that area at the time or something like that. But she swears that this car that she got into was with him.
Wow.
So that's like, this is not the same thing, but but having an encounter like this, but you don't really realize who you're talking to until later on or something happens. One time I was flying home from somewhere, and this was when everyone was still like wearing masks on planes and things like that. And so I couldn't really tell who this person was. But I was like, no. And I looked at her little luggage tag and it said Deborah Ryan. And I was like, no way. I didn't know if it was Debbie Ryan or not. She's like big on Disney Channel. Like she was big in, if you saw a picture of her, you'd recognize her. But with the mask, I didn't know for sure. And I was like, no way. Get off the plane. Realized I forgot my water bottle. So I turn around to go back and she was like, oh, is this yours? And I was like, oh my God, it is. Thank you so much. So she gave me back my water bottle. So Debbie Ryan gave me back my water bottle.
That's so fun.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a great like 2 truths and a lie fact.
Right?
That's so fun.
That's what I feel like with these.
Yeah.
You know, you have these conversations with these people and you're like, oh.
Yours was definitely more fun.
Yeah, mine was a little bit more positive.
a little bit.
But yeah. My sister had that when she ran into the guy from Criminal Minds.
Which one?
She was working at the airport she works at. And all of a sudden she texted me. She goes, Thomas Gibson just walked through my line. And I was like, Hotch just walked through your line? And she was like, yeah, that one, right? And she was like, I think it's that one. I was like, oh my God, what was he like? Was he as stoic as he's in the show? I've heard he's really friendly. She was like, yeah, he was really nice. She didn't register it until he was already gone because the person she was with was the one who was like, oh my God, do you not realize who we just talked to? And I was like, you need to go find him immediately and call me on FaceTime and give the phone to him so that I can ask him to say wheels up or it's time to deliver the profile. One of the two, I'll take both. I'll take one, I'll take the other. It doesn't matter. And she was like, no.
The logical answer.
And I was like, you have to. I don't care. You can say I'm crazy. I don't fucking care.
You can get fired. I don't care.
You have to go. So she goes, she FaceTimes him. She's like, he's eating. I said, I don't care. She's like, I'm not going to go over there when he's eating.
Did she?
No.
Oh.
But she sent me like a screenshot zoomed in of him.
Oh my God.
See the, like little haircut. And I'm like, oh my God.
That is wild.
Crazy.
I can't think of any of things like that I've had.
Or like when you weren't on this New York trip, but I think it was the
would have been freshman year.
First one?
That was the only one I didn't go on.
I think it was the first one.
It had to have been.
So one of the people we were friends with in high school, she got really mad at me because circumstance. I switched places with her in line, thinking that I was going to be able to sit next to whoever. And I was like, it was one of those things where she was last in the row. We were going to see Mamma Mia. And we had great seats. So she's at the end of this row. And so I'm going to start the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, damn, I'm not going to sit next to my friends. So I sit down and there's just 2 empty seats. I'm like, well, it's not too bad. It's just 2 empty seats. Sitting. I look over. I do that like double take of like, oh my God. It was, I forget what their characters' names are, but it was the 2 popular girls in Secret Life of American Teenager. The blonde and the brunette.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were there. And I forget who was sitting next to me. I was like, oh my God, they're sitting. I got a picture with them. And she was really mad because I just asked her to switch.
Right.
And I think I did the same thing to her when we went on like this like talk show. Again, just circumstance. Oh, you can go in front of me. Like, I didn't know. And she ended up being like taken out and like they put a plant there to ask a question. So I was on the news. I was like on TV because I was right behind the person who was asking the question. And she was so pissed. I was like, I didn't know that this was going to happen.
Not my fault. I'm just getting lucky today.
Right. But yeah, so.
Well, if you've had any experiences with anything weird, please send it to us.
Experiences, it could be a ghost. You could have seen the ghost of Blackbeard. It could be a famous ghost. That would be cool.
Famous ghost, not famous ghost, normal ghost.
Any ghost.
You saw a serial killer, you had a run-in, they tried to kill you.
You have a
Family member.
You're a friend of a friend who knows someone.
Oh, that's like grandma. My grandma. I did the story in New Jersey where she knew Eddie Smith.
That was so crazy.
Yeah, who ended up murdering someone. She was in the wedding.
Yes,
that.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Freaking 6 degrees of separation, man.
Seriously.
That Kevin Bacon effect.
But yeah, send us your stories to ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com.
Follow us on all the things. More so Instagram and TikTok because I don't use Twitter.
And soon, apparently, Twitter's going to start charging $1 a year so that it can, or X, so that it can keep bots out. I'm not paying. I know it's $1 a year, but I'm not paying. So I was washing the dishes yesterday and I had like a podcast playing and it was loud because I had the water running and everything. And then I hear like a noise and it sounded like a voice saying something that didn't fit with when the podcast was talking. And so I like paused it and listened and I couldn't hear anything. And so I walked out to look at the camera because it'll have a blue light on if it's on, and it wasn't on. And I was like, that's really weird. Like it sounded like when Roy tries to get Roy's attention, when Joe tries to get Roy's attention. And it freaked me out. And so when he got home, I was like, did you like talk through the camera today? And he goes, no. And I was like, you don't like that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Well, we're definitely not going to pay $1 for Twitter.
Elon Musk. No, he does not need more freaking money.
He doesn't need it.
Give us $1 instead.
I'll try Threads. I'll figure that out because we already have the Instagram. But I'm definitely active on Instagram and TikTok.
So yeah, follow us, reach out to us. If you leave us a review or a rating anywhere, let us know and we'll send you a little something. So I think that's all we have.
Shout out to like our core four.
The core four.
The ones that we don't know.
Right. All right. So stay scary.
And stay safe.
And stay spooky.